So now that you've watched this unit, Professor Coutts and I would like to briefly wrap up some of the major themes. The first major theme of this unit is that women and girls are the most vulnerable people group when we look at the hungry poor, both domestically and internationally.
Around the world, indeed.
And I think too, when you look at the programs that we use to target the hungry poor, a lot of them, even domestically here with the WIC program, and then we have international school feeding programs. Can you talk about some of the other things that are being done to reach women and girls?
Right. Well, the school feeding programs, the maternal child health programs in particular, we know that if we can educate girls, that there can be such a key impact on so many aspects of longer-term development in a particular country, society, community. It is a very key aspect, and this is again why we have concentrated as much on the subject.
And I think one of the key findings too is that as the World Food Program and also social safety net programs have focused on women and girls, we're learning that not only feeds them, but it then feeds the families and really helps to try to end that intergenerational cycle of hunger and poverty that we've been talking about so much.
Right, indeed. Yep.
The second major theme that we covered in this unit was hunger and economics, and looking at how some of the major trade policies affect these vulnerable people groups. And I'd like to bring out, you guys have your assigned readings, and we hope that you're keeping up with them. But the two main books for this course, All You Can Eat and Enough, really dive into these hunger and economics issues and really cover some of the key arguments for and against some of the policies that we have. What do you kind of see as the major theme of the books?
Well, I think in particular with Enough, there's many, of course, very useful themes here, and I particularly like Enough because it's written in a very understandable layman type of style. Many issues to do with world trade and economics that are written in a way that the implications of these policies and that the reader has a sense of how it affects people personally. One issue in particular that I know the author explains very well is the lack of a level playing field in international trade. And this has come out in our lectures as well in this course, that many countries, many subsistence level farmers in many countries simply don't have the access to international trade and opportunities to really earn the amount of money that they would need for their economies to really develop. And until that level field has been achieved overall, we shouldn't be terribly surprised when many of these countries in the third world do not develop to our expectations.
I think one of the most interesting things as an American in our society, and I think he highlighted this well in the book, that we are very much a generous society, and it's kind of ingrained as a people group who we are. We're very generous. Right. But at the same time, I think he also painted the clear picture that some of our economic policies really inhibit the generosity side. So we might, give $10, but then in our policies take away 8 of them. And so I think he makes a really good point that as Americans we need to be really cognizant of the whole picture of our actions instead of seeing them as different silos.
Well, and realize that the implications of some of our policies in some of our countries in the first world will actually work against many of the charities and such, that people feel that it's making such a difference. It's such a generous society here, but some of the actions at times that the government takes can be very much counterproductive.
And I think Joel Berg in All You Can Eat, I think also begins painting a very similar picture and looking at more at domestic hunger, but showing kind of this push and pull of government policies versus social policies versus safety net programs, and really kind of captures, I think, a lot of the key issues. And I think from my perspective, one of the things that as an instructor I'm trying to really guide home in this course is that these are really complex issues with many players, many sides, and it's a very complex story. But I think in its complexity, I think that's part of why, and we described this before, that we set up a hunger minor, is because we need experts in a myriad of fields to begin working together towards this end goal. And I think by painting this picture of complex problems, I hope we're enabling you as students to begin seeing how you, in your own field of expertise, can tie in some of these issues and really begin driving home and making a difference with a field that you're comfortable in.
Indeed, yes. No, it's an excellent book on hunger in America. The whole social justice issue comes out very well. Very, very, very excellent resource. So domestic hunger here, and then international hunger and poverty here.
And we hope too in the lectures, I mean, one of the main key themes of this lecture unit is the understanding the differences between domestic hunger and international hunger. And so that's part of why we chose these two books for you to read, is that we want to have a clear picture of what hunger is, but then also how it's manifested in different population groups. Right. The final theme that we touched upon in this unit, and I think you're going to see also throughout this course, is the idea that hunger and poverty are intimately linked. You don't really find one without the other.
Right.
Particularly here domestically, you know, we talked a lot about the Black Belt and some issues there. There's a case study about the Alabama Black Belt and some of the issues there. And then I think your lectures touched a lot about the international poverty issues, particularly in Bangladesh.
Right, and the fact that you can be poor and you can be hungry. You're typically not hungry if you're not poor, but that there's a particular link that's very critical to understand in terms of how the hungry poor survive and how they always will be the most vulnerable to any shock, whether it's man-made, weather-based. It always seems to be the case, and I think that's come out fairly well in the case studies that we've talked about.
Mm-hmm. So where we sit in the course right now, you've just finished the first 3 units, and what we want to try to do now for the remainder of this course is really give you the tools and teach you about where people are working, what they're doing, and begin really looking at some of the solutions to these problems. I think sometimes it's hard to get through the material up to this point because it tends to be fairly downer and depressing, but the goal isn't to end on that note. We really want to finish the course strong, but to really empower you as a student to be able to walk through the remainder of this course and feel empowered that you know the tools, you know the players, and also that you can feel empowered as an individual to begin making a difference in hunger and poverty.
And you will see what works and how effective programs can be, and how good results can be achieved. It's as Professor Brock says, it's very easy to be discouraged at times with that, what we call the CNN factor, or the BBC factor of that poor starving child. Yes, it's true, but the thing is that there are many very, very smart people who are involved in various programs and governments who do care and are making a difference, and you can be part of making that difference as well. And overall, then, that is how we will end world hunger. That's the key.
So join us for Unit 4.